Hello, I'm Kat and this is 10 minutes long, and today I'm going to be making pasta e faglioli soup, which is basically soup with pasta in. I see it, to be honest, as more of a stew because the vegetables in it are like left chunky. Like you don't whiz it up, which is good because I obviously ruined my blender in the parsnip soup video, so that was not useful. Anyway, this recipe comes from my auntie. I don't know where she got it from, but I will link it down in the description so you can see what is needed. I absolutely love this recipe because just like everything, I have adapted it for the slow cooker. So if there is a lazy way to cook food, I know it. And at the moment, obviously with me buying my house, things are getting a bit stressful. I've got a move coming up and stuff, and I want to be able to eat wholesome food without spending like ages cooking. So, and I obviously don't want to be kind of like just chucking chips on something in the oven because that'll get boring really fast. And I want to, this is the time to be looking after my body and making sure that, I'm eating well and eating plenty of fresh fruit and veg and things. So this is a great recipe for that. Basically, when I make this, it makes 6 portions for me, and that's like, I would consider like a portion to be like a bowl full because I eat this as a main meal. It comes in at around about 300 calories, but it'll vary depending on how much veg and stuff you put into it. And for me, this, as I say, makes 6 portions. Usually I'll eat one the day that I make it and then put one in the freezer. Put 5 in the freezer. And because lately I've also made dal and parsnip soup, I've got a really nice amount of like fresh wholesome stuff in the freezer that I can just defrost and warm up in the microwave throughout the week, which is going to be an absolute godsend over the next couple of weeks. So now that I've done all of this like talking preamble, I'm going to shut up and just get on with it. And then I might try a voiceover because I did a voiceover for the end of the parsnip soup video when I couldn't speak because of the wind. And I was just like amazed at how straightforward it was to do that. And I do find it hard to talk and do at the same time, especially in a time efficient way. So I'm going to shut up now and just get on with it, and I will leave it to voiceover Cat to explain what the hell is going on here. Obviously this one's straightforward. Chop a potato into cubes and put it into the slow cooker. But anyway, over to voiceover Cat to kind of probably talk over me speeded up doing what is needed for this soup. Even though I'm going to speed it up and talk over it, one thing I will say for this is that like it's fast and easy. Like chopping the vegetables is probably the hardest thing about it. So yeah, if you want something fast, easy, wholesome, and it makes a great batch, then this is it. Thanks, real-time Cat, voiceover Cat here. Yeah, so this bit is carrots. So it usually requires 2 carrots, but I ordered 3 because Tesco's a bit rubbish with the veg and I was getting it from Tesco. So there I just kind of like peeled 3 carrots and just chopped them up kind of small. You can kind of like mess around with the veg quantities, like it doesn't feel like a lot of veg when you print it in, but to be fair, I usually just stick with this and find that because there's like also pasta and loads of kale in it, you don't have to be super strict with the vegetable quantities though, is what I'm saying. So like if you really like carrots, then chuck an extra one in. If you really like kale, chuck a little bit more in, that kind of thing. Taking a drink. So there we go, there's the carrots. Next is 2 onions. So this seems to be pretty much a good base for most soups, is like carrots, potatoes and onions. That's like a really standard thing, and also like celery. But anyway, because they're going in the slow cooker, they can kind of be a little bit roughly chopped. I didn't go to town on them, I just sort of really chopped them quite roughly. And because obviously they they get really soft in the slow cooker, so that's pretty straightforward to do. So there we go, they've gone in now, giving it a good mix for no reason at all. Garlic, it says like 2 cloves of garlic, but I always order like quite a big garlic, and I put a little bit more in, but also later on when you put in the spices, you put in like garlic granules. So it's kind of up to you really how much garlic you want to put in. If you're not a massive fan of it, maybe just stick to the fresh garlic. But there I'm like crushing it in a garlic crusher, which is like one of my least favourite things to do. I've got to be honest, I'm not like a fan of this at all. It's just so messy, and it's hard to clean out afterwards and stuff like that. But I've seen some fancy garlic crushers online and I would really love one, but it's kind of like it would be really wasteful to buy it when there's absolutely nothing wrong with my existing garlic crusher. This is the way my brain works. Anyway, so next I was just taking some stuff out of the cupboard. I showed the camera, which is hilarious because you cannot see it on the sped up thing at all. But there we go. There is me basically taking celery out of the freezer. So that is 2 sticks of celery. This is a teaspoon of salt. And that is pepper. I'm just like waiting now, what's next? Here is like a tablespoon of nutritional yeast and a tablespoon of garlic granules. So it is a lot of garlic and it does feel like a lot when you put it in, but it's actually really nice. And here is a tablespoon of pesto. I use reduced fat pesto, but you don't have to. You can use whatever pesto you want, but it does add a really, really nice flavour to it. Now I'm making stock. And I'm using stock pots because, again, as I said in a previous video, whenever I use stock cubes, it seems to have like a really weird taste to it. So I use the stock pots. They're not like expensive ones. They're not like OXO or anything like that. Literally just, you know, Sainsbury's own, Asda's own, Tesco's own, whatever. There are other supermarkets. But they do stock pots, which are absolutely fine, and I find that they're actually best for soups and stews because they don't leave like a weird chemically taste. So that's me mixing that up there. Just to touch back on the celery, I don't eat celery, I hate it, but I quite like it in soups because it like removes that bitter taste to it. Is me dumping in the stock. And because of that, when I buy a celery, I usually like chop up all of the sticks of celery and put anything spare in the freezer. And then later on when I want it, I just dump it out frozen. So you can see there I dumped it in frozen. And it'll be absolutely fine in the stew. This is a jar of sun-dried. So yeah, it's a jar of sun-dried tomatoes, just whooshed up in this little zhusher that I have, which is great for herbs and stuff like that. So you blitz the sun-dried tomatoes, and then you just dump them in. Try not to throw the zhusher in with it. But it does add a really, really nice like Mediterranean type. Don't really know what I'm looking for in here. I've totally lost place of where I am. Okay, beans. That's great. So 2 tins of cannellini beans. So you don't put these in to begin with. You put them in kind of like when there's a couple of hours left to go because you don't want them in there for too long, really. And that is a bag full of kale, and I mean like full of kale. I absolutely adore kale. It's a lot like cabbage in taste and texture. And it's a big part of this recipe. I actually put in more than the recipe calls for. I just like literally buy a bag of kale and just dump it in, even the stalks, because it goes nice and soft in the slow cooker. Now the kale's been in there and everything. We're kind of like an hour before I want to be eating it. So now I'm dumping in the pasta. You really don't want to be putting the pasta in for too long, especially if it's small pasta like this, because it will just absorb all the water and go soft. So you kind of want to put it in maybe 45 minutes to 30 minutes before you're about to eat it, depending on how hard or soft you like your pasta. So here we're kind of like 45 minutes later now, and it's all cooked. As you can see, it's all been in the slow cooker all day, and I'm just dishing it out. You'll see I'm portioning it out into these bags, which are just silicone bags, so you can portion it out hot, and I usually just leave them to stand until they cool, and then I put them in the freezer. These bags are absolutely perfect because they lie flat in the freezer and they take up very little space, and you know, when you're making a batch of 6, it's great to just be able to just chuck them in. And yeah, that's kind of it really. I'm just sort of portioning it out ready.
and that is pasta e faglioli soup. And yeah, it makes a great big batch, and I'll be eating that for a couple of weeks. And there, as you can see, coming up is the finished product, which I'm about to go and eat. So I hope you enjoyed the video.